friends, I am Maggie and I'll be your virtual tour guide in today's historical tour of the place closest to my heart, Hinobaan. And as you can see, I dressed up extra today to be the most perfect tour guide in today's video.
Wow!
The first thing people say when they heard that I'm from Hinobaan is to actually comment on the name of the place, saying it's strange or funky or weird, and I couldn't agree more. But there's a fun story behind this. Nothing had been recorded as to how Hinobaan got its name. However, according to an old tale handed down from generation to generation, there was once a Parao sailboat sailing from the island of Panay on its voyage to Cebu. While passing along the coast of Hinobaan, the crew of the said sailboat ran short of drinking water. Seeing the white beach of the place and the green forest in the background, the crew decided to land and look for a spring where they could replenish their water supply. Unknown to them, a group of natives who were hiding among the trees were watching curiously. The natives were so attracted when they saw the multicolored clothing of the newcomers, and they looked interested on the clothes of the travelers for their own rather. Not long after, some members of the crew embarked with the water containers. The natives immediately sprang up and encircled them, and with spears in their hands demanded the travelers to strip off their clothes. The travelers, fearing for their lives, obeyed meekly the demand of the natives. As soon as they removed their clothes, the natives grabbed them, and gladly no one was hurt because the natives let them go peacefully. The travelers began to tell stories after of a place in the southern part of Negros Island where they were stripped off their clothes. And every time they passed on that place, they would point it out their fingers and say, "Dira kami sina nga lugar ginubahan," or meaning that's the place where we were stripped off our clothes. Later on became reference of the place until such time that the place was called Ginubahan, which eventually, became Hinobaan. On to other places of Negros, punut became a lucrative and in demand, for the reason that lots of people in Negros engage in coral fishing, and it is one of the necessities. Eventually, they found out that the said materials abounded everywhere in the forest of Hinobaan, because there was already natives staying in Hinobaan. They had a barter relationship with them, and eventually, one of the sailors became interested in staying permanently in Hinobaan. He bought his personal things with him and settled in Hinobaan. This woman was named Canuto Tembrebella, or our forefather, the first person who strived to have Hinobaan to have a name itself. Canuto befriended the natives and even married one of the native women. With his knowledge of other innovations from his hometown, which is Panay, he somehow, industrialized Hinobaan. With the rich resource of Hinobaan plus his ingenuity, he lived generously, which attracted his friends and relatives from his hometown. And that is how there were Tipleses, the Tomados, the Tuposes, and the Triños, which is until now most of the surnames of the residents here in Hinobaan. Together, they rooted and developed Hinobaan until it became an independent municipality. The lucky thing is, Spanish authorities did not occupy Hinobaan during their time in the province, since the area was still a jungle, which is unfortunately lucky, I guess. It was visited only by the people from Kawayan and neighboring towns for hunting purposes. Hence, no important events were recorded about the coming of the Spaniards in the town. However, when the Americans landed in the Negros during World War II, Hinobaan became a historical point of entry by the U.S. military forces. Colonel Salvador Abisedi, district commander of the 7th Military District, established his island headquarters in the town during Japanese occupation. Colonel Jesus Villamor aboard submarine USS Glidgion, I hope I am pronouncing this right, landed at Ubong Point and occupied Ubong Cave as commanding post, supply food and arms to the guerrillas. After liberation, Hinobaan was rehabilitated by some of its pioneering residents. More settlements were established, schools were built, trails were developed for the people. Now we should talk about the famous landmarks where you can visit today and is also famous in the past. The first one is the Salvation Cave, of course, in which is the point of the barter system on the old times, along the vicinity of fabled beaches of the Barangay Talakagay, and has natural covered pools ideal for bathing. And the second one is, of course, the most famous tourist spot here in Hinobaan, which is the Ubong Cave, in where the late Major Jesus Villamor, hero of World War II, landed, bringing firearms for the Philippine guerrillas aboard the U.S. Navy submarine Gideon in 1942, establishing the first radio contact with the General Douglas MacArthur base in Australia at the time. I just have to mention that aside from the aforementioned places, many beautiful places have emerged now here in Hinobaan that is worth visiting. It may not be a grandiosely part of our history, but it sure is a part of or a result of the history of hard work and dedication of the people here in Hinobaan. And I hope that I have convinced that you have enjoyed this video. And if in case you visit Hinobaan, you can just come to me and I will be glad to help you and tour you here in real life, guys. Bye!